So hi everybody and welcome back. This is a little, quite short I think, kit review about a model coming from the past. This is the heroical Monogram Model Corporation from, I think it was Morton Grove, Illinois. This was something mythical for his little forward in age like I am, because I basically grow up with this company. In my opinion, uh, take it what I'm going to say. I mean, today we have amazing models, so hyper detailed and so on, but those models coming from America of the 80s, they had something warm inside. I mean, something really passionate on the way that they made this model. Already starting from the box art, this nice drawing is made by an American artist that is Don Greer. Don Greer was the one making all the cover page of the In Action books, which I really use it to learn my very first English, because all this documentation and books, extremely technical, but technical made in the way to be helpful for modelers, were made in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, in the US. So it was, and of course they were just written in English. So for me it was critical to understand a little of the language, also because they were made in the real way to make the modeler understand it. You clearly see that there was a clear connection between what they did on the books and what you can find on the market model around. So for me, the monogram is really a piece of my art, and I think there is also at today some guys in, I think in Facebook that were working at the monogram models back in time. And every time, despite the technologies of the time, because nearly all the model coming from Monogram, they all had not recessed line, they were all in positive, we used to say. So all the lines were outside, so you have basically to replan all the panel lining of all these models, But what you have inside this model, it is something really coming from the past. First of all, if you look closely at the box art, there is a decent representation of the model, and it is a model that you, looking at that, you also can see some little minor mistakes, and some easy stuff taken by the modeler at the time, but it was something that didn't give you an anxiety to say, okay, there is so many details that I could never build it up. This is something that everybody can do, quite basic painting, quite basic showing up of the finished model that already for the time was a blast, because to see the model completed was something, Monogram made back in time a series about this chopper that was extremely cool. They made the Cobra, that is this one, they made the Apache AH-64, and they made the Hind, so it was a series that I also had it in the past, and I enjoyed it so much, because the building of this stuff is amazing, If you look closely at the box is nothing. The box seems made like in a paper from a printer, so it's really something that is absolutely not steady. It was enough on this model to place 2 or 3 model over, and you will absolutely destroy, like this one already is. The box, they were not steady at all. It was something extremely easy, and I remember that at the time this was stuff that we could find in Italy for something in the area of 10 euro, 15 euro, something like that. So extremely cheap for a kid back in time. It was something that was not completely for free or not so low prices, but it was an amount that you can find with the weekly little payment that you have from my family when I was in this age. I mean, this is a model from the box, is a model from 1980. We read it before. See, Morton Grove, Illinois, this mythical place. I don't know if today there is still something in Morton Grove, Illinois. I don't think so, But the model was coming from there. Where is the date? The date? Ah, there it is. You see, 1986. 1986. So 1986, I was a kid, though, 13 years old. So for me, I used to go to the modeling shop and I used to dream about this model. It was a completely different world. It was not video games and so on. In 86, you neither had the telephone, you neither had anything at all. I think just I had the neighbor where I was in the building where I was living that had their first Atari console for television, but the games was pretty dumb, Then you used to go to the play center and buy the coins, It's something really coming from it's a blast from the time, So when you look at this type of model, first of all, I am completely taken by the box art that is really great for the time. It resembles a Cobra. Sure, briefly about the real chopper, the real stuff. The Cobra is still today one of the best attack plane helicopter made by Bell. and also the definition of AH means attack helicopter, you know, the title, and it was the first derivation of the AH-1G that was used in the Vietnam War. And the main difference was basically around the motor, of course, and around the frames of the cockpit that became kind of armored and much more resistance to the shoots coming from the ground, you know. And this was also improved because he had one of the first tow system for anti-tank stuff. It was probably an helicopter that didn't made in Vietnam, but it was operative in the 80s, you know. Being a subject of 1986, as we seen before, this was something that Monogram was exactly spotted on the article, you know. If they know that the US Army had this helicopter in service, they go for the model and make a very, very nice model. And of course, like back in time, they had the opportunity to access, like it is written in the instruction sheet. The instruction sheet was clearly written by other passionate modelers, so you see that there was somebody on the other side making the model that was exactly like you, so trying to help you. For me, this is amazing. It's something that today is completely lost, you know. Today we just have the social media or the review online that very often is, I'm part of it, so it's paid by the company. So even if it is crap stuff, you have to say, it's fantastic because if I make it in this way, it arrives in this way. So is a little bit different, and I think a little less honest word of today. And what you have inside is not really the original look of the box. And to make a long story short, it was a gifted model that was going to be trashed by a kid that started it. So when I see the stuff, you know, the heart of a modeler is always there, and you say why to trash it, and why let it be. I mean, I want to save it, you know, and it was just a little bit started. That's why I simply closed the two half of the fuselage, because the kid simply tried to place inside the intakes. The biggest lack of the model itself is of course the kind of detail that is honestly not so bad, because of course is raising up, but they also had the bolts, you know, that was very, very gentle and delicate, placed on the fuselage. So of course, if you go for a modern type of detail to build up this kind of model, and I think it's quite interesting, because I think just right now there is the special hobby model that is a much modern item, you know, much different prices, you know. I don't think neither is possible to find this like a vintage article, so usually I collect these boxes just because they take me back in time. But honestly, this model was absolutely well done. Of course, the most critical part, if you read the review online, is to keep in a proper shape and the proper detail all the exhaust of the engine, and to be detailed. This is absolutely not acceptable for today, so all the mold lines and the joint point of the fuselage must be retaken, you know. But for example, also the cockpit, I don't know how correct it is for an AH-1S of the period, but it's quietly well done, and also the seats inside are well done. Of course, the original Monogram model, I think they come inside a plastic blister all over the box to avoid people to open that in the shop and to lose the parts. So this plastic I had by myself, because the parts were so loose around that it was so easy to have parts floating around. I think 2 or 3 parts in this kit are also still missing, but it is not this big issue. The Cobra is so simple helicopter that you don't have so many problems. Also the transparent part, this bag, this is stuff that we do it at today, you know. We always place them in a plastic coverage to have something that keep the transparent part protected by the scratching by the others. And already mine one are here, you know, because as I say, this was a model that was going to the bin. Inside you have also a kind of interesting description instruction sheet with all the description of the plane, with very, very clear drawing, you know, really, really made in big stuff and big and very, very clear. Of course, also here quite written in English, but you see, also back in time they still had a translation in Italian. Today you don't find nearly any model that have a proper translation in Italian. Instead, this was completely also written in Italian, and the model is an American one. They have nothing to do with Italian stuff, so they made it in their purpose. Monogram models were famous, and I think it was an infamous reality, not so true in my opinion, that they had very, very crap decal like this one. Probably it is, you know, it's a very, very old decal. But honestly, all the time that I had to be using this type of decal, also maybe using the that liquid that we had back in time, that was the micro, not the crystal clear, but the decal. It was a product made by microscale, then super scale, you know. I still call them microscale because in this age there was an American company making was an American company making decals, thousands of decals variant for this stuff. So it was incredibly interesting, and they cost $3. So it was something at the time. Today I think they ask about something like 15 to $20 to have crap quality decal printed with computer or homemade stuff. So it's completely different world. Instead, if you go for micro scale or super scale, you constantly have excellent stuff. I tried to save it, some hundreds of them, but it's for so many planes, and they were designed over mostly over monogram planes or AC planes, or this stuff that you had in 48 and in 72 scale, and quite few stuff in 132 coming from Rebel. So the choose between the article is more or less that one, But if you have a kind of bank about this decal, the quality is still today exceptional. So it's something that very difficult you can have from other companies. Maybe Aeromaster decal made something like that, but their decal coming from microscale were exceptional. Instead, the decal that you could find in the box, they were considered to be real crap decal, but the reason was extremely simple. Being completely loose around the box, it was so easy to get humidity, that we get the weather condition, and being so sensitive film, the decal became very difficult to be used and very used to be destroyed. To be honest, I find the same identical situation also in very modern Italeri stuff using a cartograph. Cartograph, the best quality around. Absolutely not. I had the same situation in Wingnut Wings model, the fantastic model of the First World War, made in 132 scale. The decal sheet was brand new item, brand new item, produced like 1 year before and mounted by me the year later. I also sent the picture to the website, and Peter Jackson chose it like a cover page, it was cool stuff. But the quality of the decal was the same identical crap. So why blame so much the old Monogram model with this idea? This was an exceptional American company that I really miss it. Honestly, it was something, something. And honestly, and there is the description here. If you read here, they say that they used the real one like a guide to make the model. Was developed from an actual AH-1S. So they had a real helicopter. It's incredible that today a company making military stuff really provide to a company making basically toys a real plane there, a real helicopter there. For me, it's fantastic stuff, too cool, And as I said, I don't know if I ever will build it up. But the shape of the Cobra, the fact that this was a single engine Cobra, then they had from the series AH-1W, they became a twin engine. The Super Cobra was a completely different family. They are still active. I think Israel have a lot of them. They are still Marines use them. So they made still one of the best chopper ever for a very single reason. When you see this helicopter from the side, you say, okay, cool stuff, but what's so special? If you see that from the front, you understand why it's so very difficult to spot it and to hit it, because it's so thin. So you see, just imagine this stuff that is a line that is flying in front of you with 1 kilometer. So it's extremely difficult to spot the shape of the Cobra in front of you. That was the secret of this stuff. They were coming from the Cheetah project of the 60s. It's an incredible history about military helicopter. This is a way to study the history. So for me, the model, despite of course this is a vintage items, this is something that absolutely must be collected, because the piece is something, and bring me back when I was 13 years old. So this is amazing stuff. Go for it if you find it, and of course it's vintage stuff. I think it's still worth it to pay until, I guess, $20 to $25. I will absolutely buy it. Yeah. Also because, as I said, the complex lines of the helicopter are really well taken. Monogram, remember, in some subjects, and here I will be completely considered like a fool, like the modern Phantom, in my opinion. And here I really break the rule. In my opinion, the best line ever they had over a scale model of the F-4 Phantom, the most famous plane of the war. In the past, it was the plane. It was taken by them. No Hasegawa did. Nobody that modern Zou make Kimura, what the fuck, from Japan name, they didn't get. But Monogram did. In my opinion, mostly for the line of the air intakes and the bulge of the canopy, the line of the Monogram model is something more. So and you understand this after 50 minutes of me talking, I badly love Monogram Models Corporation. Simple like that. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next.